Have you ever considered the logistical problems of invading another country on a different continent after you have spent 4 or 5 years blowing up and destroying that country's infrastructure? You see, you need to get there and through that continent with your own vehicles, which means you need to get your vehicles there. So you need to build harbors, because of course the enemy is going to blow up his harbors before you get there with your ships. It's a bit of a whale of a problem. It's also a whale of a solution. And here in the middle of Verdun, I found 2 of those solutions. The Whale Bridge, actually still in use. These bridges transported over 500,000 vehicles into France during World War II. And here I'm meeting my favorite British-French historian from Verdun, Mr. Cook Rogers, who'll tell us all about this particular bridge and his efforts to save it.
Here we are on the River Meuse, and we're looking at 2 whales, that is the code name for them, which were taken from the D-Day artificial harbour at Arromanches. They were never meant to be joined together like this. There are pivots at either end, and one of them would be attached to a floating pontoon where the ships would moor, the Liberty ships and all the other cargo ships, to unload their jeeps, their half-tracks, their Sherman tanks, etc. with cranes. They would drive off the floating pontoon along one of these pivoting sections, which would move up and down with the tide and the waves. And that would connect to the next floating pontoon, which would connect to a fixed pontoon and to the beach. So here are 2 pivoting sections which they've joined together to form a bridge across the Meuse. The reason they're here is that in 1944, when the German troops retreated from France, they blew up the remaining bridges that the French hadn't demolished in 1940, and that the Americans weren't busy blowing up at the same time with their Thunderbolts and P-51s. And so the French were really short of bridges. They went to Arromanches and they brought back dozens of these sections and used them temporarily in France. There's one which is still used near Nancy, although they're thinking of closing that down. And these 2 are still used here together as bridges. Tractors drive across them, 10-ton tractors.
Yes, but when you said temporarily, you meant 1945-46.
In 1944, they fitted them here temporarily, and these 2 are still here. The only advantage to them is that they were meant to resist seawater. So they were built, they weren't meant to last, but they were built to survive ocean storms, if you like, because one of the Arromanches harbours was actually destroyed by a storm shortly after it had been built. So they're pretty sturdy construction. They're all bolted together, not riveted.
Except for that piece falling off over there.
Yeah, there's a piece of metal coming.
This is very comforting to the thing I just drove over. It was like
a heavy vehicle as well. There you have it, a pair of whales. Oh, they last for another 50 years. But they really need to be primed and rust-proofed.
Yeah, a little bit of rust-proofing. What was that, Rust-Oleum?
Yeah. The local council had... oh, there's a boat missing over there as well, if there's a boat hole.
Are we going back over this bridge?
Yeah, well, there's no other way to get out of here.
Oh, well, what the hell.
Unless you stay with it. They had a quote and they said, oh, well, okay, that's reasonable, but we have no money at all, so it was never done. It's a shame. I was thinking of finding some American veteran associations and say, look, this is the bridge that your guys drove across in their Dodge, their Jeeps, their half-tracks, and a few Shermans. Now, come on, can you sort of stump up some money and help us to keep it as an American monument here? The French aren't interested in saving it. It's American.
It's part of history, and it's come a long way. Do we know, just for the hell of it, where it was built?
It was built in England.
It was built in England?
Yeah, that's why it's bolted. It's still welded.
Oh, yeah, there we go, yeah.
But can you imagine transporting these beasts? I don't know how much they weigh. You could look it up. Transporting dozens of these, across the water to Normandy, sailing them over and assembling them. That was quite an achievement in itself. You see, the river is very shallow here. That's why you see the cows; they're up to their stomachs in the water when they make it here. But that central pillar is nothing to do with the original construction. It's simply join 2 pivoting pieces together. Oh, I don't think that piece which is hanging down is anything substantial.
No. At least that's what we're going to tell ourselves.
That's fast.
It's just amazing that there are so many of these built, and there's only this one and maybe another one still in existence.
One years ago I knew was near Nancy.
We can do a little company sponsorship here. We'll put a little placard here. Restored by Coop. Oh no, wait a minute.
It's weight limited to the tractors at the moment. I wouldn't like to take a Sherman over it.
Of all places to have a memorial bridge. That's what we're going to call it now. As soon as somebody pays to restore it, we'll call it their memorial bridge. What a beautiful piece of landscape. The water, the forests around here, the nature is absolutely gorgeous. It's hard to imagine how this place would have looked in World War I, where everything was just engulfed in a battle. Over the next several months, there'll be a lot of specials on World War I, World War I fortifications, and some of the specifics of some of the battles. Oh, everything bolted?
Yeah, you could actually dismantle it, take it away and mend it. If you could get a bit of plus gas or on the boats. Ah, these are rivets, are they? Can't tell.
I would imagine that the farmers around here would be rather upset if we start dismantling it.
Yes!
Don't worry, we'll bring it back.
About 3 years.
When we have money for the restoration, we'll bring it back, don't worry. So this is the connection between the two.
The pivots are inside, the pins have been taken out, but they would pivot there, and that just protects the connection. Because I think those are original.
I mean, it does feel very safe and sturdy. Even though the asphalt is a post-war addition.
Yeah, there's timber underneath, you can see.
Yeah.
Underneath the asphalt.
Yeah, because they just used to, there would just have been two roads, two rails here to drive on, right?
Oh no, I think it was a full road.
It was a full road.
Yeah.
That's the linkage.
Yep.
And so is there a male and a female linkage? Or well, there would have to be. Or do they just link them?
Boats through, I suppose, gigantic boats.
Well, then like a clamp coming down and on either side?
Yeah.
I'll be curious about that. I guess we'll see that on the other side. Either it's identical or there'll be a female.
Those are big boats and big nuts and bolts that join the big sections together. The cross pieces.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's over-dimensioned, in fact, for its limited life, which is why it's lasted so long.
I would imagine you can do a biological, biodegradable sand blasting here, sand blasted in place, and painted in place.
But you've got to protect the environment. That's where most of the money goes.
So that is the female, because that does not look like the other one. The other one have the spike. And then there would be a bit, I'm guessing. I mean, it would make sense that there's male, female ends, so they can just stick them together, bolt them in, so they.
Yes. On the bobbing waves in the middle of a storm. Yes.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, they would have some leverage to move. They would actually have to be able to move. If they were tight, they would break. 10 miles of these bridges were constructed. They're 80 feet long, and it almost boggles the mind that there's only these two left in existence, short of a few in museums here and there. And we can all hear Oddball stipulating what a beautiful bridge this is. I hope it will be here for all of my visits to the French battlefields of Verdun. Hi, my name is Tino Struckmann, and this is my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy history and military history as much as I love bringing it to you. And if you want to see more of the photos and documents I've used for these episodes, documentation and so on, you can go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out traveling around the world to some of these far-flung locations like Van Allen Brown's first test stand behind me, or Deepness nuclear reactor down there, or the Maginot Line over there, you can donate on PayPal, protection@serviceint.com. It'll be right here, and it is also on lostbattlefields.com. You absolutely don't have to, but I appreciate any help, and I love all you guys for all the support you've shown me, because history is important. We all know that, and I'm going to bring it to you.